Hi, I'm David from Lithgow Lights. Today you're going to get a little behind the scenes look at how the display works, where things are located and just what's involved in basically putting the show on here. So let's go for a little walk through the display. One of the items added last year were the Pixals up here. There's 6 rows of 168 LEDs, all pixels, strung right the way around the house. Now in this box here is the controllers and cable, power supplies, power injection points, all run to the two sections. One runs that way, one runs the other way. Another item added last year were the candy canes. 12 candy canes are strung around the path, the 6 on the north side, 6 on the west side. Each one of those contains 10 RGB LEDs, they're 2801 pixels, 12 volt variety. Also we have 5 of these large poles. Down the side of the house is 5 small poles. These ones here are tinting poles supplied by, I think Ben gave me these ones, but don't quote me on that. These ones have 15 LEDs in it. The shorter ones have, I think there's 8 LEDs in each one. Again, the same modules as inside the candy canes. Also last year we added the leaping arches. Each one of the leaping arches is about 4.5 metres long and contains 42 RGB pixels. They're stellar greens, although next year I'm replacing them with something a little bit more closely spaced, just to give a little bit more even light along the actual arch. A show can't work without controllers, and here, hidden behind a couple of shrubs, are 3 of the main control boxes for the display. The large green control box here contains 3 power supplies, which are power supplies for the Midi Tree star, the star on the house, as well as power supplies for some injection points for the floodlights. This one here contains the power supplies and controller for the lights around the windows, as well as those in the shrub here. And hidden down behind here is the P12R, which contains the pixel controller for the arches, for the poles, for the candy canes, tune to signs, as well as the star, which is going to go up on the roof over there when I get a chance. I tend to paint the boxes a little bit of a motley colour so that they're hidden. People don't notice them as much. Most of the control boxes are either black, green, mottled colour like this, or as of the Pixel one up there, which you saw earlier, they're painted the same colour as the house. I tend to hide them from view. It just detracts if you can see all these boxes and cables scattered around the yard.
Still on your head, but
that's fine. Well, the display's just kicked off for the night, but one of the items that we use for a few reasons are floodlights. Now we've got 3 sets of 4 floodlights which are used to paint the house with a bit of colour. The floodlights are getting a little bit old now, and as the display has grown it's become brighter and brighter, so they're very hard to see with now very bright house, very bright trees. We have 4, as I said, in groups of 3, 4 of these, 4 floodlights that paint the house. We have 1 below each of the trees, which you probably can't see out the bottom of the frame, 1 on each side of the bigger trees. Now behind me is the Midi Tree. Now the Midi Tree itself contains 8 strings of 168 LEDs. Each of those 8 strings, they're all stellar greens. Down the bottom is a P12R controller in the black box, which you should be able to see just here. That box contains power supply and the P12R. The little round box above it is the controller for the star on the top of the tree. It's just a single 27 channel controller and gets a power supply from over in the corner of the house. Another item that we use in the display this year are the balls, also called Ben's balls or Yaguna's balls. Everyone laughed behind the camera because Ben, or Yaguna Lights, was the first one to bring them to our attention from Ray Wu. This year I have 70 in this tree above me here, 70 in the blue spruce out the front, and 50 in the 2 trees beside the camera. Last year I had 168 LEDs here in the blue spruce and 85 in each of the other 2 trees. These are a much larger ball. They're a 12 volt 2811 pixel. and you can see by the size of them they give out a lot of light, and they're pretty waterproof, but we had to do a little bit of work to make sure that they'd work for the display this year. Overall, very happy with these, and I do recommend them if you have a larger tree. The larger distance between the pixels, 20 centimetres versus most of them are 10 centimetres, and being 12 volt you can string quite a lot together and you don't have a voltage problem. Another item that I added last year were the toadstools or mushrooms. Now these are all handmade, hand fiberglassed and painted, based on a design that I seen up the Central Coast. I'll put a link in the YouTube video. I can't remember the girl's name. Up at, where was it, Toukley I think it was, or that area, where we seen the display. But these contain about 15 LEDs each. They're a little 12 volt item, and the control box, which is just a little simple 3-channel controller, is located just below it. They're all DMX, and they get their power via the power DMX line as well. Another item this year is the singing faces located way up there. The control box, hidden behind the Pixals here, just contains 3 27-channel controllers. Each of the faces contains 8 3-channel outputs. They're just dumb pixels, they're dumb LEDs, they're not pixels. And they've been a real hit this year. They're just all handmade. They are welded here, spray painted, with a bunch of lights simply cable tied to them. There are videos of them in operation prior to putting them up on the house. Another item we've added this year are the Midi Trees. These white trees, sourced from a place over in Western Australia, contain 100 RGB LEDs for the smaller one, and the larger tree over the side there contains 150 RGB LEDs. They're powered from a single 27-channel, a pair of 27-channel controllers hidden behind one of the trees over there. They're 5 volt and they work really well. They are very bright. The LEDs tend to sort of reflect off the white tree, and they throw off a lot of light, as you can see. Another one of the items we added last year was the large display screen up here. It contains 2080 RGB LEDs, they're all pixels, and the small box next to it contains 2 5 volt power supplies, 2 P2 controllers, as well as a couple of fuse holders and some ventilation fans. That thing draws about 400 watts when it is all white. One of the last items in the display, and one that's been modified quite substantially this year, is the rose garden. It now contains 8 strings of 42 pixels, with a Pix88 controller down the bottom with a few spare outputs for some future expansion. This one here has 32 rows of 21 pixels and is basically half the size of the mega tree. It is used quite substantially during the show. This is actually fireflies at the moment. Another item added last year and expanded on again this year are the balls in the tree. These balls are all handmade, they're all hand fiberglassed, and a pair of 27-channel 5 volt controllers is hidden in a box here. The balls contain about 84 RGB LEDs. They draw about 5 amps when on white. They do get rather warm, but they give a huge amount of light to this area. The last item that I'm going to video tonight, because it's getting a little bit too dark, is the last of the control boxes over in the corner. This one here contains 2 24 volt power supplies, one of them for the RGBW rope light which outlines the house, as well as power supply for this end of the floodlights that are used for the trees and for the house. This one here will probably get retired next year because I'm planning on changing the floodlights, as well as the RGBW rope light, which was bought from Ed over in Queensland, who has since tragically passed away. The rope light is basically beyond its use by date now. There's a lot of sections which are out, so I have purchased some 5 volt RGB LEDs which I use in silhouettes inside in the windows, which you may have seen earlier, as well as the ones that are around the windows and in the shrubs. So I'm using the same item as that to outline the house next year.